You know, there is a good chance that this next new event ends up being really good. After all, it does appear like the Halloween event is making a comeback, and I'm honestly quite excited for that. Now, do I expect it to be a exact carbon copy of the old Halloween events? Well, not exactly, but you know, it's possible. So we will see what will happen tomorrow, but the most important part is that we will be able to find meta level 8 modules again, which are currently very rare, and they're currently very expensive, so I'll definitely be running those sites, and hopefully I do get some rare items, since down the road they will be quite expensive again. Now, do I have a ship for it? I think I do have a ship for it, but haven't really decided on what to fly yet. However, I have a new ship in the hangar here that I want to show you. So, I think a couple days ago, I talked about the Celos being a really good kiting ship, but the problem was that it needed a specialized kiting build, and this is exactly what I made today. This is the long-range kite Celos. Now, I still have to adjust some of the modules here, but the idea works, and it means that now I have one Celos for close range and the other Celos for long range. The reason why I had to separate them is the fact that one Celos could do both easily on the same hull with the same rigs, but it wasn't able to do both to perfection, basically. So since I was looking for that perfection, it really had to be two separate ships, and this is how this second Celos was made. Now, this ship was planned to be used with long-range disruptors, a tracking disruptor, or a guidance disruptor. Now, in the low slots, it can be a lot more flexible. You can give the ship more range, although by default the Celos has about 60-kilometer range with the medium artillery cans. But if you want more range, you can easily add a tracking computer, but at the same time you can also enhance its DPS. So you can also add a clocking device, so you have DPS, tank, and stealth. There's honestly a lot of ways how to build this ship, and my build will definitely vary it depending on the situation that I throw the ship at. Sometimes I'll have a cloak, sometimes I have a tracking computer, sometimes I'll have more DPS. It really will be quite flexible, and that goes to show that this thing is really flexible in terms of how you can build it. Now let me show you the old Celos. This is the Celos that will be primarily designed for close range combat. It has a lot more DPS and a little bit more tank because I'm using a more expensive extender, but this thing is really good, and I'm very impressed by its DPS. Now, what ship am I going to be using for the event? I would say drone boats might be the way to go, since drone boats versus drones, I think they just goes hand in hand. They have a hole on EM and thermal, but more on that when the event is live. Alright, let's have some fun. So, the first target for today will be a Navy battleship. Now, as you guys know, Navy battleships are currently one of the tankiest chunks in the game when it comes to subcapitals. No subcapital comes close to their tank. They are insane. And in this case, we have a Raven Navy as target. Now, out of the 4 Navy ships, the Raven Navy might be the tankiest, since that thing has a lot of shield and a lot of shield resistance. Now, we have dual Macarials, which should be, I would say, enough to break the tank of a Raven A, but you know, might be wrong. We will about to find out, since these things can be really tanky, and they can be made to tank a lot of high DPS, especially if they have a damage control. Their damage control lasts like 30 seconds, almost 30 seconds. So that's about 30 seconds of super high resistances if it is built like a tank. And the Raven Navy is also used to go and hunt capital ships, especially carriers, since carriers have a hard time to break a Raven Navy. But the Raven Navy has a lot of alpha, and it does apply the damage to capitals really well. That's where the Raven Navy does shine the most, in shooting down carriers. And one of the reasons why I might get one, I still haven't decided which one to get, but the Raven Navy is most likely my next Navy Battleship. And that one was a tanky one. This one was a tanky, although definitely not as tanky as they can be. I have seen more. I have seen tankier Raven Navies. This one didn't really feel that tanky, but it still had quite a bit of hit points. So the ship still had a lot of hit points. So let me warp out, and then I can show you the kill. In this case, I had quad and gyrostellars because I didn't want to play around with the tank of a Raven Navy. You really want to have the absolute maximum DPS you can when fighting one of these ships. 11.03 billion, not bad. And this wasn't really a resistance tank, and the ship also was lacking a damage control. Now, not necessarily a bad build. It is more focused on active tanking, which I can kind of see work, but in order to get a better active tank, you really have to give the ship a bit more resistance, and the Navy ships need to have a damage control basically at all times because they have a bonus on them. And as we have seen in the super capital videos that I made a couple days ago, a damage control really does help at reducing a lot of incoming burst damage. One of the ways how you can easily survive enormous burst DPS from the implants. So a damage control is definitely a must-have on a Navy ship, even if it's built to be a full DPS ship. A damage control is definitely a must-have. I will show you what kind of build I have imagined for the Raven Navy. Still not really sure if it's going to be a full-on brick or if it's going to have some DPS. I am kind of leaning towards the build that I have on the Macariel, basically having DPS but having tank at the same time, since they already have enormous default resistance. You can easily just do a build like this and it will have like 80-90% resistances for like 30 seconds or even more. And I might even get a sleeper core for one of these ships, which adds further 30 seconds of enormous tank. But again, more on that when I do jump in a Navy Battleship. Now the target here is a rattlesnake, and this rattlesnake was a bait rattlesnake. As you can see, they're tanky, although we are breaking the tank quite easily. After all, 2 barrage Macarios with high-level barrage implant just melts most tanks. It didn't look like the rattlesnake had a damage control, because if they had a damage control, the damage taken would definitely be greatly reduced. Which means that this rattlesnake was most likely built for DPS, but we will see the builds. Dual adaptives, 1 reactive, a booster, and triple drone damage amplifiers. So yeah, this was definitely a bait DPS rattlesnake. And honestly, quite a valuable one as well. 5.2 billion ISK, not bad, and some good drones have dropped as well.
We're under attack. Warp drive active.
Okay, let's warp out and let's wait out the criminal timer. Alright, next targets. What do we have here? Now, it looks like... yeah, definitely looks like we have a Macarial. No, but I did observe, I was looking at the screenshot I made of the Macarial, and it looks like they have a sleeper core, so not really sure what to expect in terms of tank, but I'll definitely be careful on my barrage activation, since I want to make sure that my DPS is applied on the ship without the sleeper core active, since the sleeper core is basically a extra damage control. Now I open fire, and it looks like I'm doing some good damage, and here is where things went wrong. Now you might not see it on screen, but I am furiously tapping on the gyro stabilizers, and they don't want to turn on. No, there is no cooldown, nothing, and I'm clicking on them and clicking, and they're not turning on. Only one gyro stabilizer turned on. The other two are, I don't know, they decided not to work, but the Macarial is in very whole one shot away from death, and yeah. They have warped out, they had stabs, which is fine. The reason why they escaped is not because they had stabs. The reason why they escaped is because my gyro stabilizers did not want to work. I was clicking the entire time, and they did not want to activate. There is no timer. I haven't used them before. The one gyro stabilizer worked, the other two didn't. So yeah, no idea what happened, but if something did make me angry, it's moments like these where something completely random happens, something that you can't control, and the target escapes because the modules did not want to turn on. I have no explanation of what happened. My screen works fine. My screen works fine. It's quite responsive. It hasn't been damaged anywhere. That doesn't even have a scratch. Yet for some reason the modules just did not want to turn on. This is not the first time that this happened. Last time it happened with my Stratius when I was fighting a Gila. The armor repair just did not want to repair. How does that happen? I have no idea. But it did happen. So yeah. Anyway, let's go to the next target. We have a Drake. And this is the long-range kite Celos with the tracking.
Warp drive
Actually, my apologies. This is not the Drake. This is an Oracle. Now, this Oracle is close to zero. They are using pulse lasers, which is interesting. Usually, the Oracle is a long-range ship, but in this case, this Oracle is equipped with pulse lasers, and for some reason they are already in low armor. Oh well. Anyway, I'll focus fire. Gyro stabilizer on. Now this thing slaps. The Celos slaps really hard with the battery modes and with the barrage at the same time. It kind of looks like a level 45 implant in terms of the rate of fire. It slaps really good, and this was a good catch. No idea why they were in low armor. For a second I thought that they might be a bait, since, you know, usually if an Oracle is a bait it will be close to zero with both others, since the Oracle has some good tracking, and overall the Oracle has a very nice DPS output. Alright, let's take a look at the kill. 1.2 billion Oracle to kill, quite the expensive one. Oh, well, this explains why they were losing armor quickly. No tank, full DPS, but short range. Basically one adaptive and one medium armor pair. Well, that isn't really... That obviously isn't enough to tank a tier 10 mission up close. Would definitely be performing much better if the Oracle was at like 50 kilometers, since it still should have some very good DPS at that range. I mean, the optimal range should be about 50 kilometers with that ship. I actually kind of forgot what's the range of the pulse ladders. I think it should hit up to 50 kilometers quite easily with that build, but I might be wrong. Now we have a Vexor Navy. This Vexor was in a large anomaly, so I assume that it is a bait.
Warp drive
Now this is the Cloaky Kite Celos. As I said, I will be changing the build, adapting the build to the situation. Sometimes having extra tank is the better idea, sometimes having cloak is the better idea. When engaging a ship that's potentially a bait, speed and stealth do take priority, since in this case I'm long range and this thing is definitely faster than a Vexor, so if it ends up being a bait I can just burn out of danger and cloak. So let's find out, is this Vexor a bait? Well, they're sitting at 40 kilometers away from me, not moving and not warping. Well, moment of truth, is it a bait or not? Well, based on the first hit, that's definitely not a bait. And yeah, this ship wasn't a bait. Now you might be wondering, why do I assume that every navy ship that I see, every navy cruiser I see is a bait? Well, usually the navy cruisers are perfect baits, since they are very good ships. They can have some very good tank, and they have 3 medium slots, perfect for 3 scrummers. And basically, when the hunter does fall to the trap, then you call in reinforcement and the hunter gets killed. That's basically how the bait navy cruisers work. All right, let's see the build of this Vexor Navy. 61 mil. Actually, you know what? Not that bad. Not that bad in terms of the kill value. Usually, then the navy ships are less, but yeah, I'll take it. 61 million, not bad. Not a bad value for a navy ship. All right, let's go to the next targets. Now we have a Drake. Okay. Warping at 16 kilometers. This is the Kite Celos. This time I have a large extender and a guidance disruptor. As I said, adapting the build to the situation. You can actually roam around with the ship and carry several different builds in a cargo, and then basically just change the build when required. I actually do that quite often with some of my ships. Now, this Drake seems to be a tanky one. Well, not exactly too tanky, but yeah, it does take the hits. I am approaching at 22 kilometers. The shield of the Drake is broken. Definitely much more DPS than the Orcus or any of my other cruisers. Well, not the most DPS it has, since this is a long range, but the alpha damage that this thing does is really good. Now they're trying to shoot at me, but it looks like their missiles don't have enough range. This is the magic of the guidance disruptor. It basically cripples the missiles of your target, making them not performing that well. And that was a successfully kited Drake. Let's take a look at the loot. And the battery mode also works really well. Basically a permanent barrage implant. Not going to give the same boost as the barrage implant, but you know, it increases the rate of fire quite a bit. And any increase is good. Okay, Let me align myself towards the station and let's take a look at the kill. 25 million. They had the rapid missiles. Definitely, yeah, they definitely did not have enough range to reach my cells. I was basically outperforming their missiles with my speed. Alright, anyway, let's go to the next targets. What do we have here? We have a Mauler. Well, let's quickly slap the Mauler, I guess.
Warp
Always a
drive
good
active.
target practice. Never say no to a free kill, since any kill is a good kill. You never know what can drop. Honestly, so far, had a lot of fun with the kite cells, and I'm still thinking about what is going to be my ship of choice for the new anomalies tomorrow or today, depending on when the video is released. I still lean towards drone boats being the better option, since drone boats are just really good. If you have a drone boat, then you won't have to worry about the new anomalies. You should be clearing them quite easily.
Warp drive
I believe
active.
a prophecy or prophecy commands is definitely going to be the way to go with these new anomalies, since they have good tank and good DPS, very scary ships. So for the smaller anomalies, definitely a prophecy command or a Vex or Navy or a Vex or 2 or a Stratios, since they use drones and they should work really well for that scenario. Now, what ship I'll be flying, again, absolutely no idea. Could be Celos, could be the Chameleon. I guess I will decide when the event is live
Warp drive
tomorrow.
active.
Now, the next target is a interesting one. We have a Talver to Assault. It's not every day that I see a Talver to Assault. I'm definitely not going to say no to this opportunity now. I kind of messed up with my warp. I warped a little bit too far away, and this destroyer is known for its speed. It's a very fast destroyer. And as you can see, I'm trying to burn towards I could have webbed them, but I forgot that the Celos has a bonus on webs, so they're still burning. But my excellent range and me chasing them actually made the whole thing easier. Haven't had any points on them, but they still got destroyed because they were trying to burn away from me, and I was literally burning towards them, which means that they didn't have any chance of warping out. If they were trying to warp out, I would have scrambled them, and that would turn off their micro overdrive. But that was a good kill. That was a good chase and a good kill. Short but sweet, as they say. Now let me show you the kill. So 1.1 billion. Now when you look up front, it looks like a good build, but where are the medium slots? Why did this pilot fly this ship without any medium slots? That is something that I don't have an answer to. The build looked nice. The problem I had with that build was the lack of medium slots. No, it could be
Docking
that
request
they
accepted.
didn't have enough power grid because of the medium booster, which, you know, is definitely a thing that would make
Undocking.
the player decide not to add any medium slot modules, but could have at least add like a web or a long range disruptor that costs like 1 power grid. Unless, of course, the fit is really tight and it's maxed out the power with the medium booster. But in that case, you should definitely fit a Republic Fleet medium booster. It costs less power and the effect would be about the same. And you will have
Warp
more
drive
power to
active.
play with for more modules. But overall, the idea behind that build, I think is nice. But the one problem that I have with it is the fact that it was missing medium slot modules. It really has to have medium slots. Now, You might be wondering, why am I in a Drake? Why am I in a... Yeah, I'm definitely flying a Drake. Why am I in a Macarial? Now, to be honest with you, I have no idea why I am in the Macarial. I thought that this was the cells. This happens, I mean, probably because I'm usually playing quite late and I'm usually quite sleepy, but I thought that this was a cells. Not the first time that this happened. I mean, technically, you know, you can say that the Macarial is a cruiser, but it is, you know, it's a Macarial, not a cells. So I don't know how I mix up a cells with a Macarial, but in any case, yeah, that was kind of a
Warp
funny
drive
fail that I want
active.
to share. Not the first time it happened. It's like the 5th time that it happened. I take the Macarial thinking that I took a cruiser. Maybe I should stop calling the Macarial a cruiser. Maybe subconsciously I really think that this is a cruiser. Not that I'm jokingly calling it a cruiser because it's fast. Anyway, next we have another Drake. I guess it's Drake season today. And I am this time in the actual cells. This is the
Warp drive
actual
active.
cruiser. Hopefully. Alright, now my apologies for the weird cut. I realized that I was about to
Warp drive active.
accidentally add the wrong clip in the video. So the next target is a Drake, and this is the long range cells. Now my warping wasn't that good. The Drake moved by the time I warped back. Since I messed up with the implant, I had to dock basically and change my implant, and this did buy the Drake some time to move away. But hopefully I can reach the Drake on time, or yes, not. Well, I was about 3 kilometers short from being able to tackle them. So yeah, it happens. That was a fail. My mistake for having to dock and change back the build. No, I attempted to leave system and then basically returned a minute after. Usually that trick works. They do come back to the mission, and that doesn't buy me time to actually return. Now this thing is fast, so
Warp drive
going back
active.
to the mission is really no big issue. You can just warp back in an instant, and let me just adjust the range in case, since this is a long range cells, don't want to be orbiting at 0 with this build. And yes, my guess was right, they are at 0. Excellent warping, right in my optimal range. Barrage engaged, battle mode also engaged. Unloading the DPS on the Drake, seems they're losing shield, but they have stabs. And this is one of the main drawbacks of the kite long range cells. If the target has stabs, most likely
Warp
they
drive
will
active.
be warping out. But that's where the close range cells does kick in. I'll wait out the timer, I'll dock, and I will pull out the next cells, which will be the close range cells, and I'll add one extra scrambler just in case the Drake has 3 warp core optimizer rigs.
Warp drive
So
active.
warping back in. This is the other cells with the close range brawler build. Very similar idea, but different modules and of course different weapons. There is the Drake, nice and close to 0, right in the range of my scramblers. Okay, scrambled. And now I am unloading my entire DPS on this thing. It looks like it is tanky, but I have a lot of rate so far, and there's a lot more coming in. So the high burst is used to quickly break the shield tank of most ships. And the shield on the Drake has been broken. armor has been broken as well. And now the Drake is in hold, the Drake has been destroyed. They didn't warp out this time. A aura stab, lovely. Wonder how many stabs they had.
We're under
Definitely didn't have more than 12.
Warp drive
since
active.
they haven't been able to warp out when I had 3 scrunners on them. So should be interesting to see the build that they had. Definitely had aura stabs, but the question is how many aura stabs did they have? 1, 2, 3? Well, definitely not 3, because they did have some tank. 250,000 hit points, okay, 1 aura stab and 1 warp commander, so total of 7 stabs. Oh, okay. Not too many stabs. I could have easily used dual scrunners, but I just did not want to risk it. If a target escaped the first time, and if it has stabs, then just go and slap a lot more scrunners on the target. Alright, well, that was a very lovely run today. Had some pretty good targets, pretty good kills, and of course some fails. Which, I mean, that Macariel. I mean, how that Macariel escaped, I have no idea. How my model just did not want to turn around. That was just pure BS, to be honest. If the Deletus would have worked like they didn't work, the Macariel would have been dead and would have been a good kill. But anyway, it happens. So just part of the game. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.